I have a bunch of questions. Okay, hello and welcome to Discover with Sbenati. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, and this is another episode with Discover with Sbenati, and we have a very special guest who is unbelievable. This is definitely out in left field, and you're going to enjoy it so much. We have Tyler. He is, I want to say, a computer programmer, amongst many other things. He will enlighten you with a lot of things that Tim Ferriss talks about. And if you've read any books with Steve Jobs, you also relate to that as well. He has come up with a program that will actually transcribe your entire videos and do much more than that. I'm actually simplifying it quite a bit, but he's all up in SEO and marketing and searches. This is a podcast for you to listen to if you're looking to advance your business to the next level. He'll discuss things that will help you improve your business, some tricks and tweaks that he believes can give you a competitive advantage, some struggles that he went through, and some benefits that you can get from that as well. Without any further ado, Tyler.
Hello.
What's
Thank you
up?
for having me. What camera do I look at?
This one.
Look at now. Okay.
But yeah, so tell us, and tell the lovely audience, the ones that are listening to the podcast, and the ones that are listening to the to the YouTube channel, or just looking at the
you've got this on all platforms here,
every
right?
single platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Tyler Bryden. I got this camera here. I am, too many things. Programmer, I would say average. I would say maybe a front-end developer. So I went to school, went to Fanshawe Interactive Media Design, and so you learn a lot of the programming piece, but I think what excited me was this combination of like interactive media with the development side. So I talk about the video transcription, the analysis of it. I think there's a really big powerful entity right now that's coming is how can we make web experiences more powerful through content, through media. Yeah, right. So that's the part that really stuck out to me. But because I went through that program, I started getting asked to build websites, started building some crappy ones by myself, and then slowly you start to get asked by other people, and you build a website for 6 months, and then no one would come to it. So you have to do the second piece, right? Which is actually getting it to, getting people to the website, and that's where I've spent a lot of my time for the last several years. I mentioned to you, quickly that I do a lot of search advertising. So, someone types something into the search bar, pop up a result. So there's two ways to break that down. One is paid, meaning someone's actually paid for those keywords that you just typed in. And you're going to show up an ad, or you're actually going to show up organically, meaning that you put out enough content on your website, you built up enough trust with a search engine like Google, Bing, it's there. I know Bing's a good place, but Google, and what it's saying is that you actually have enough authority that it's actually going to show your result up in those top results for free. So organic being you're being placed for free, and then paid meaning that you're actually paying for those.
Okay, so let me interrupt you for a second. So I think this is something that a lot of people are going to be asking you, and I want to ask you for them. So now paid is straight up. Like you pay for some keywords, they show up based on how much you pay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Organic. Yeah. So you have to have a website.
Yes, you do.
Okay, for the website. Can you just load it up with with videos, with blogs, with what makes someone more competitive in terms of organic reach?
There's so many layers to that, but I would say one of them is, so content is a big one. So if you just think naturally, if you have a website and there's nothing on it, search engines are trying to crawl through that website and don't have any comprehension of what's actually on it. So I would say actually content, a lot of people will go written blogs, or like for you, if you just have optimized pages on your site that talk about the services that you provide. So cosmetic dentistry, make that a page URL, and make sure that the content is all rallied around that. So then search engines are crawling through that page, understanding what you're actually doing, and then much more likely to promote you, especially if the query that someone's searching for is matching the keywords directly on that page. So I'd say one piece is content. Video is a huge generator for that now, and that's even why I'm working a bit on my platform now, is because when you embed a video on the top, you're starting to skyrocket in search engine rankings. Oh, for real? Especially if you attach the transcript below. So you think right now, if we're speaking, I'm about 130 words. I'm a quick speaker, 150 words per minute. Yeah. So say I'm spitting about, if we talk for an hour, we're gonna be like 10,000 words. Yeah. So imagine having a transcript of 10,000 words on the page, how many keywords that search engine can now crawl through. Right. So that's this idea of how can you build these content profiles on your website so Google has an understanding of who you are and can actually properly promote you. So I see that piece there. Okay. Hierarchy on your site. So home, about, services, contact page, all those things are just standard. code.
Right.
And what you're building is like a navigational hierarchy for search engines to actually crawl through and understand the layout of your site as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I'd say that, and then the big piece that we see now locally, so for someone like you, if you wanted to be successful, it sucks, but like a lot of it is actually rallied around your Google My Business. So reviews, posting photos, content, making sure the information is accurate, and then also having that Google My Business information also submitted to other locations or other directories as well too.
What do you mean by that?
Yellow Pages,
okay.
Apple Maps, Foursquare, all these other.
So how do you submit Google My Business to those kind of things?
So you would actually
to Yellow Pages, for instance.
So Yellow Pages, there's like actually a page that you can go. You just upload all your information, and they will basically accept it as a submission. So a citation. It's called a citation. Yeah. So all those will link back to your site. And
so you mean like cross-linking?
Cross-linking. Just linking, backlinks, I guess it could be called. Okay. So what happens is it builds up a profile of all these links pointing back to your site. And so it's like, you getting a reference when you're applying for a job listing. It's like, oh, all these people trust this website. All the people trust this person. I'm much more likely to trust it.
Right.
So if the more links that you build, especially if it comes from like a high domain authority site. So, if you get a link from
like Forbes.
Exactly. Yeah. Huge domain authority, it's pointing to your site. Google says, wow, trusted site pointing to your site, I'm going to trust your site. Right. So it sort of builds up this profile of trust kind of thing. So that would be, that's a big piece of organic success. And then they look, constant content production.
So link to Yellow Pages, link to which other ones did you say? You said
like Better Business Bureau. I'm just trying to think off the top now. Foursquare, Apple Maps, do a Bing listing. Basically as many places, especially if you're a local person, that have like a local presence, and then just point right back to your site.
Okay.
Basically.
And how do you do that? Like, do you just contact those companies and?
Well, it sucks. It's a pretty manual process. There's some systems now that will allow you to do it. So, like this Bright Local, for example, where you can pull all this. You can pull 50 citations, and then all you do is hit the ones that you want, and they'll actually go and submit it for you. So because that process could think of how long it might take you to do that.
Yeah, of course.
It's awful. It's awful.
Of course.
So now there's
I have a lot of time.
Exactly. So there's now systems that really optimize it, or companies that have built a process where they can really quickly build those citations. So that's where a lot of people will work with a marketer or a company like that, because they don't have the time to do it for themselves, or for them to do it, it would take them 5 times longer. Because they don't know where to go, they don't know how to streamline it, they don't know how to get the info.
Right.
Kind of thing, so.
And you can't automate that stuff?
There's services, so there's like aggregator ones. So like you, for example, submit the information to one place, and then it will then in turn submit to like hundreds of them at once. Yeah. But a lot of them aren't the high quality ones that you're actually looking for. The high quality ones actually need you to sort of manually submit that kind of thing, because then they're actually going to verify you. So a lot of the bigger ones will actually call you after. Are you a real person? Are you a real entity kind of thing?
It's kind of like when you submit to Google My Business, they send you a big letter saying,
Yeah, so they want to know you're real.
Right.
And it makes sense, right?
Right,
so
it makes sense.
That's a piece. Unfortunately, it's still a very manual process, but a very worthwhile one, and an investment that's a one-time investment compared to a Google ad where you're paying every single click, right? So you can see massive search engine optimization benefits by making some investment in links like that compared to Google ads, which are great still, but the cost breakdown.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So in terms of cost to benefit ratio, it's more cost effective for someone to actually do the organic than for someone to do the paid in terms of return on investment.
It depends, I guess, the setup of the business, right? So if you, Google advertising, especially paid ones, if you know the specific terms that someone's going to type in, and then they'll come to your site, and then they'll set up an appointment or they'll buy something, what is that return on investment for you?
Right.
Like if you're a dentist, you can probably get a pretty big return depending on different surgeries, right?
Well, that's the thing, because you have so many other dentists in the area. The competition for that keyword
competition is crazy.
Is huge. So you have to pay so much to get such small attention.
Do you know how much it costs you to do a clip? Do you know that?
I kind of looked into it, but I forgot it because it was really
like it could easily be $15, $25, $30.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen financial industry or even college courses like $125 for one click.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you think how much if you get one click and you can convert that person into a sale, that could be $50,000. That could be right. So
I see.
How many clicks do you have to get before you get the sale, and does that number balance out? So there's actually a direct formula and you can break it down. It's called return on ad spend, which is how much money did your advertising give back.
Yes.
But then you can also do return on investment, which is also breaking down your cost, and you can actually literally basically predict that. So how much is your customer acquisition cost, and then how much is like the lifetime value of your customer.
Right.
If it's, if this isn't high enough, you're unprofitably advertising.
Right.
So that's it's the formula of doing. Paid advertising can be very, very profitable. It's just most people don't know how to like manipulate those systems well enough to actually get the return that they're looking for.
And they end up spending more money
way
than
more
they should.
money. Way more money.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then if someone wants to do it properly, they would contact you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. Yeah. I've done that for a long time. You can't promise any results, but you can promise ongoing optimization. So what generally starts is you start, if I come in, if a company comes to me, they want Google advertising, for example. A lot of times, depending on who they work with the past, you either have a good set of data or you have not good data. So I've logged onto sites, for example, have probably Google Analytics on your site. Do you know if you have goals set up on your site?
What, sorry?
Goals. Do you know if you have goals set up on your site?
I don't know.
Yeah, so most don't. So I would say these are smaller medium-sized businesses, but almost every site in this day and age has Google Analytics set up on it, but they don't have goals set up.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example of a goal. Like someone comes to your website, they're going to go to your contact page, and then you've got a contact form submission. You redirect what you can do is redirect to a thank you page after that contact form is submitted, and then that URL that you redirect as a thank you page becomes a goal. So then every time someone hits that, it means that they successfully submitted a contact form, and now your goals.
I don't have that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So for Google Ads, since you're paying for it, Google Ads is a machine learning system. So you're feeding its data back on the goals that are being hit. If you can't feed any information to Google on that a goal has been completed, it's not going to be able to optimize the advertising as well too.
Makes sense.
So that's, even like something like that, I forget the root of this question where I was going with it, but is a huge step up in what most companies are actually doing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So the root of the question was that if someone wants to get up into the CEO searches, then do they contact you? And
yes. Okay. Sure. Go ahead. Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. I know where I was going. Yeah. So the piece there was that you start, depending on how much information you have, you can start with like a wide funnel. And I'm trying to think of like a good example off the top of the head, but like this is just coming. So for example, it's a hearing aid company, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going into a hearing aid company, I've never worked with hearing aids before. I don't know exactly what searches are going to lead to the goals coming. I'm going to be guessing it's, looking for hearing aids, free hearing aid test. I have tinnitus apparently is what it's called.
Yeah.
And then I can start to, over time, start to see the paths that people are taking once they actually make those searches, basically.
Yeah.
So then over time, you can optimize which keywords are working and which ones aren't, and even start building up audience profiles.
Right.
So someone who types in free hearing test, who is a woman in her 50s, she completes the contact form submission 20% higher than a man in his 20s.
So then you aim for more.
Exactly.
I got you.
So then you get tighter and tighter over time.
Right.
So it's about accurate data collection. It gets creepy, of course.
And how do you find those data key points out?
So something like the Google Analytics with the goals. Like if you have analytics set up on your site, basically you have complete understanding of how someone got to your site, where they actually went once they got there, and then why they left as well too. And a lot of companies now are using a system, not a lot of people know about this, but they'll use a system like Hotjar or LogRocket. And what LogRocket and Hotjar do is you put a tag on your site and we'll actually do video recordings of what people are doing on your site.
Get out.
It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, it's scary, but it's like so powerful because you don't just get numbers. You don't just get like, one person completed contact form submission. It's like, okay,
here's the movement.
Everything. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So it'll blank out all sensitive details,
yeah.
But you will watch a user flow throughout your entire site and then optimize around that. So I'll just give you one example. There was a site that we were looking at that had the thing that looked like a button on it, but it wasn't actually a button. And so we were just starting to see people like hammer this thing, thinking it was a button until they like rage clicked, went off the site, turned it into a button, and it's all, everything's fixed, right? But you would never know that unless you were actually tracking that piece. So the qualitative understanding is just as powerful as like the quantitative with numbers as well too.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So how much would you charge for your services?
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about that after. Yeah. No. I honestly, this is we talked a little bit about before this about like the the software that I'm working on.
Yes, and that's a segue.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to understand, what I've started to believe is that, and you've you've done this really well, is constant content creation is really powerful, especially if you're doing something like a video and then you're transcribing it and putting it on your site, because you're naturally generating thousands of optimized keywords on your site, or you're hitting people with touch points through social media to bring them back.
Right.
So I think what I'm trying to build is a software that is an extension of all the knowledge that I've learned over years. To say I do a workshop or something like that, there'll be a bunch of people who want to maybe get some support after, but I don't have the capacity to necessarily do it. Or if you're a small and medium-sized business owner, the cost that I would need to charge you is too high for me to do it, because I'd have to hire other people and train them and all that. So it can get really messy really quickly.
Right, and to solve that issue.
And it's so custom, right? Like it's every business, every industry has different sort of user flows or different user behavior. That's why a marketing agency, for example, will specialize only in roofing companies. They'll do it all over the country or all over the province, but they know exactly what words work for roofing companies, and exactly what the page needs to look like. So they start to specialize in niches. But if you try to take on different businesses, it can be completely different. It can be really chaotic to try to do all these different ones.
That's right, because you have to learn each one individually.
Each one individually.
Okay, so then now you're moving into the AI space, the more machine learning and doing things automation wise.
Well, Oh, I'll say one thing I found. So when I was doing Google ads, since I started doing Google ads, there was a massive switch that actually started to happen. I used to write every single ad manually, basically every single one. And there were systems to do it in bulk. There's a program called Google Ads Editor where you can edit thousands of ads at once, but you'd still write that manually. But even in the last 2 years, they started to do responsive ads, basically. So Google will automatically start swapping in different headlines, and they'll start to use their own machine learning algorithms to basically make better ads. And what I sadly realized is that they're better at advertising than a human is. And so I just started to, over time, see this, the power of technology.
Of course.
Basically.
Of course.
And so I figured, why do only like Silicon Valley crazy technical people, developers get access to this technology? Is there a way for us to democratize this in a easy to use front end interface so that other people can also take advantage of this technology as well too? So that's slowly what I'm moving on to right now. Not slowly, I'm going pretty quick. But so that software, and I told you briefly about it, was something like, here we're having a conversation right here, video, audio. So what would happen after this was filmed up, bundled up, we would run it through our system. It would actually extract our faces. So I could know basically where we are in the video. We're going to be in this whole video, but I'm going to know all the spots where we actually talked, and I can navigate to those spots. I can take out all the brands that we talked about. So if I say Google right now, I'll show you after this. It'll pull out Google, it'll pull out Apple, it'll pull out Amazon, and then it will also pull out the keywords that we talked about. So when I say, dentistry, most likely that's a unique term that it's actually going to pull out. And so now I know all the times that I just said dentistry, and I can instantly navigate to those specific spots in the video or audio. So it really creates a compelling...
Wow.
Yeah, it's a compelling user journey for people, right? You are creating these podcasts. Each one, I saw some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. Generally the shortest one is about 36 minutes. So a lot of people are, they don't have time.
Right.
But if they see a couple topics or they see some keywords that they're interested in, they'll navigate to those parts specifically. So it's like allowing them to build their own user experience with your own content.
And how does that program allow them to search through the video using the keywords?
So like what it'll have, it's so hard to tell. Like it's like if you just had a picture, it's like but so it generates like an embeddable player. So then it'll have like a list of all the keywords, and then they're just like buttons. So all you do is just hit on the
click,
button,
and then it goes to that spot. So let's say you said that keyword multiple times. So when you click on that keyword, does it give you multiple frames?
All instances.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it it's its own platform? Like it's not like YouTube or anything like that. Like you have a completely different platform then.
Yeah, completely different platform. We want to integrate with YouTube. I would say I think one of the things that's really important, and not important, but such a big system. Like Google, I don't think people actually understand how much power Google has.
The more I use it, the more I realize that. You're absolutely right.
The only reason I think the only reason why they haven't even they could just tell you we're not even going to let you basically host websites anymore. And they go just like they're already starting to do Google My Business. They've got like Google Lead services where you just like pick some words and they generate leads for you. Like they're so much further ahead than us that I'm really just surprised they haven't took over complete control in a way. And so we actually, our goal is not to be we're not trying to build like a social media network. It's a system that integrates with all the different platforms. So I can create a video within Speak, automatically publish it to YouTube, automatically publish to site, automatically Facebook, LinkedIn, right? So it's about connecting.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, it would be helpful, right? That's the piece, right? Like you know how time consuming it is.
Oh,
you're doing the editing, right? It's horrible. It's horrible. I think a lot of people have lost the joy out of creating content because of the time it takes to distribute to all the platforms.
It takes a lot of time.
So there's a saying in marketing that, what is it? It's you should spend 20% of your time creating the content and 80% of your time distributing it. And I think that's backwards. 80% of your time should be creating great content, and only the 20% should be on distributing it.
That's right.
So our goal is how can we let people create content, enjoy it, and then we'll distribute it for you.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. And so then your company does that, or we'll start doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're doing it. We still have to add the social publishing in. It's more like in our dev environment right now, but the application works well, which is awesome. I didn't build it by myself. Trust me, it wouldn't work if I did it myself. But it does. It works really well, and that's exactly where we want to go. And then the part that you've capitalized really well on is you've got a great asset with this video. Obviously, you're investing time and energy into this, but this video is not just one video. You can chop this up into 115-second clips. You print captions and transcribe them and put them on social media. It becomes very compelling. So it's hard to get someone to watch a full 36 minutes, but if you hit them with enough compelling 15-second clips, it's going to increase those chances. Right? So that's where we see. So our system, because we know the topics extracted and the keywords extracted, we can actually automatically spit highlight reels out based off the topics or keywords that you're using.
That's so cool.
So that's where we're going with it.
Sign me up, Scott.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's where we're going. I mean, it's still a ton of work. Just like I'm sure here, it always takes longer. It's always more expensive than you think. It's always harder than you think. And then you always hope in the end that it's going to be worth it.
Of course,
as well,
of course,
so,
yes. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so now with this all amazing stuff that you just discussed, how did you get into all this growing up as a young guy?
Growing up, interesting.
Yeah, how did you get up? And give me two things that you describe to yourself as something that is of insurmountable difficulties that you actually were able to overcome.
So I guess a couple contextual parts. I grew up just north of London on a horse farm, 100-acre horse farm. So that was, I think...
100 acres?
100 acres, yeah.
Wow,
It was awesome. Yeah, my grandpa was a veterinarian.
Okay.
And so my grandpa was on one house, not just my grandpa, my grandparents, and then my mom, dad, my sister, and I grew up on the same, so 2-house property. So I grew up there. I think there's something really beautiful about growing up on a farm. Horses are great, very spiritual animals as well, too. So I think there's a beautiful connection and respect for sort of nature and animals that you get. And then I was a hockey guy. So I saw you skating. I saw a clip of you skating for the first time.
Trying.
Trying. Hey, today you look good. You look good. So that was a big part of my life. I was a competitive hockey player.
Wow.
Played AAA hockey for a long time.
That's amazing.
So my teeth, I was thinking about the whole time I was driving over, my teeth have taken a hammering.
They look good to me.
I just got 4 root canals. So I'm sorry I didn't come your way first. I didn't know. Now
you know.
Yeah, now I know. And so I think a big defining characteristic in my life was hockey. So competitiveness. We had probably one of the best teams in North America at the time, and I think about 15 of the 17 people on our team got drafted to the OHL.
Wow.
Which is a huge, that's crazy. Just crazy numbers. I was one of them. I didn't end up playing in the OHL. I ended up playing for the London Nationals here, which is a junior B hockey team. And we won. We was awesome. We won the Sutherland Cup championship on the last year of my career. So when you're 21, you sort of have this time where you move on to pro hockey or you're done.
Right.
And so at least in my last year, we won. It was the first time London ever won, and so it was quite a celebration.
Nice.
But that also what led to, I think, a lot of difficulties in my life. We sort of got basically a blank checkbook of go party here for a summer. And so the rush of winning a hockey, especially after you dedicate 15 years to it, turned into a debauchery of partying. And so I ended up I think a lot of players really do struggle with identity after sports, any players, not just hockey. I think competitive sports, you're so... not indoctrinated, but you're just so...
You're entrenched.
Exactly.
That's
you're
right.
just always going, you're always moving, and then all of a sudden this is over. And you
That's
don't
right.
have that same place to put that that energy anymore.
Right.
And so I really went through sort of an existential crisis of just like, who am I?
Right.
And I ended up in a really difficult time in my place. Like I was finishing school. I was finishing school first, my university school, and I just didn't know what to do. And so I ended up in a really tough place, that sort of downslope that comes with the drinking
Yes.
and then some other things led to a really dark place. And I actually ended up in the hospital. You can't tell now, but I was actually at one point I was 280 pounds. So after hockey, I was about 185, about as fit as you could be. That's a little bit egotistical, but fit. I was fit.
Yeah.
And then
how
after,
tall are you?
I'm about. I saw you said this too. You said 5'10" and 3/4. You said
Yeah.
5'11" and 3/4. Everyone will tell me 6 foot. I said no,
No, not yet.
no, no. One day. And so I.
185 is fit.
Yeah.
Very fit,
So
yeah.
I was, and I'm about 194 right now.
Okay.
And so I ended up in inpatient hospital. Really, I don't want to go. You don't need to go too deep into that, but just like depression, mental illness, all those things that you go through, both from an emptiness coming from hockey and then just some childhood stuff.
Right.
And then really what happens is I think when people stop one vice, so for me it was drugs, they move to another vice.
Yeah.
So for me it was eating.
Oh,
so
right.
it was just like, okay, Tyler, you won't drink, you won't do drugs anymore. Just pound yourself full of apple pies and chocolate and things like that, right?
Yeah.
It's still the same process. You're still dealing with the same things, and so I think a big part of my process was how can I recover from, I think, the depression that I went through, and then a very public one as well too that really scared a lot of my friends, and then also the weight gain as well too. That really does change your perception of the world. Like you go from being like a sort of what you think is like an invincible hockey
That's
player,
right. Super athlete.
super athlete,
That's right.
To this sort of, well, I wouldn't even say chubby, I was fat. And then people look at you different.
Yeah, of
people
course.
don't give you the same trust.
Of course.
They don't give you the same respect.
Of course.
Doors closed that would be open before. And that was a really wild perspective change for me. And so I went from, it was one of those times where it's like, I'm going to be 300 pounds if I don't stop this now.
Right.
Let's start trying to do some pull-ups. Couldn't do a pull-up. And then, but then realizing how dangerous that actually was. And so really having to drop down and have a healthy lifestyle. So that was a big difficult challenge to get through, but I think it also builds you some resilience, and it also gives you a different perspective of life, which I'm actually quite happy to have.
Right. In hindsight.
It wasn't fun at the time.
That's right. In hindsight, you're like, okay, now I'm a much better man than I am before.
I think so.
So how did you click out of it? Like, I mean, you gained all this weight.
Yeah, I think it was just that. I think honestly, one of it was the pull-up thing. I think I tried to do pull-up, and I just couldn't do it. And I had done pull-ups my whole life, and I just hadn't tested. And I just remember just like hanging. I'm like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, just shaking. And finally, I just was like, okay, this is it. So I just started doing little runs, and just
and
incremental.
How long did it take you to lose all that weight? That's 100 pounds.
Yeah, it was 100 pounds. Like, I'm trying to think, actually. I plateaued a couple times. It's hard. You plateau.
Of course.
Yeah, so I think I plateaued at 250, and then I plateaued at like 226. And then I started doing intermittent fasting in August 2018, and I cut the last 20 pounds. So it's still a pretty long process.
This is recent.
Yeah. So 2008. Wow. Yeah. So 2018, I did. I tested it keto and intermittent fasting, and I just ripped off a bunch of fat that I couldn't get rid of.
Right.
And
using keto.
Yeah, using keto.
Okay.
And I would say even just more the intermittent keto, but then intermittent fasting specifically as well too has been a big piece, because I was just, I always tell you breakfast is your most important meal, which I think is true, but I've been okay not eating breakfast.
Right. Well, a lot of people are okay with that.
I think so. So now it's just, and I still have binges. I still think that's something that I deal with, and a lot of people deal with. But I think that sort of set in your mind that you do of, I'm not going to eat till 12 p.m.
Right.
That really lets you conquer a lot of things as well too. So that's been a big jump for me in a lot of ways.
So you're still doing intermittent fasting?
Yep.
And what is it? Is it you eat from 12?
16-8, yeah. So 12. I'll eat from 12 to 8.
12 to 8.
I'll eat some peanut butter at night if I can't fall asleep. But I try my best. Yeah.
And 12 to 8, you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah. I still try to eat pretty healthy.
Okay.
I'm still. watched a movie the other day, Game Changers. Have you seen that documentary on Netflix? It's about a vegan weight builder, weightlifter, and he, he's all about vegan diet and how it gives you quicker recovery time. So I'm not moving towards veganism, but I'm trying to cut out a little bit of meat, just try to eat a little bit more healthy, and if it is chicken, fish, that kind of thing. So trying to eat as best I can.
Right, as opposed to reaching for the chocolate or the chips or
we got a bowl of candy in our office right now, though. I'm still there. So
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people. And if people want to reach you, like if they're advice, if they're going through tough times, or can they reach out to you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm trying to think. TylerBryden.com. I have a website. And then generally my email, Tyler at, I don't know if I should ever give that out, but Tyler at 65.co. It's pretty active. SIXFIVE.co. And I'm really happy to talk about that stuff. That's been a big part of my life, and I've leaned on so many people for inspiration when going through those difficult times. So I'm always happy, even if it's just to chat. To see
who are your two biggest inspirations?
I really like Tim Ferriss. We talked about him. I really have. I love the sort of scientific methodology he does of coming things, like testing, documenting, understanding what's working and what's not.
Tim Ferriss and.
I don't want to sound corny. You know what?
Just say it.
I feel weird, but I love Joe Rogan. I just do. He's a great.
Joe Rogan?
Yeah. I think
he is. He's actually amazing.
I think he's a fatherly figure for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And,
he's real.
He
says what's on his mind.
He says what's on his mind, and I think there's just what he's built has been really compelling to watch, and I just think that a lot lot of people have learned a lot from him. And I've been one of those as well too.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's many more in there. And
everyone resonates with someone else though, but that's great.
Exactly.
That's great. No, that's good.
Yeah.
So how did you go from hockey to computers?
Always loved computers. I think I grew. So my mother was she was sort of like a early person who worked from home. So she worked for, I'm trying to think at the time, I think it was at Cuddy Farms, but they allowed her to work remotely. So we always had like a nice desktop computer. So there's this really big contrast for me of living on a farm, but knowing that we had like good technology in the house. So I spent so much time on that. And I think of growing up on a farm, you can actually be a little bit more isolated in a way because it's not like your neighbors right beside and you can just walk over. It's it's like, Mom, you got to drive me 5 kilometers to go to my friend's house. So a lot of time was just spent, understanding how a computer works, like troubleshooting for my family. Like, I don't know, just started to build up. And then what I was, I don't know if it was lucky, but I just love school. I think that was one thing that sort of saved me through all these things is a lot of hockey players sort of get stuck in only loving hockey, but for me, it was always school was still number one for me. I just loved it so much, and I was playing around with tech, love video, love audio. A big hip hop guy, so I got like audio equipment. My first like recording studio setup when I was growing up. I loved it. Oh,
nice. Yeah, you have
so
some.
That, you figure, of course.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Where do you have those stashed?
Oh, you can find them on YouTube and stuff. Some of them have done. Okay. I have a very odd Spanish following. They're great people, but they no, seriously, it's weird. It's they found the one video that they liked, a song, and some dude put it in his opening for his YouTube channel, and he's a huge like Spanish influencer. All of a sudden, I just seen like all these Spanish people. I'm like, what are you saying? I had to translate it all, but they liked it, so that's good. Yeah, and I think you learn a lot of people don't. I don't think like you're doing video and audio. It's pretty technical work. So I think that cemented a lot of things for me. And then after university, in university I did a program called MIT, which is called Media Information Technoculture.
Right.
Great program, very theoretical, and what it looked at was how does advertising affect us? What does the future look like, and what impact is that going to have on us? So that started to trigger me, theoretically, and then I went to Fanshawe for interactive media design, as I mentioned, and that's when I learned more of the hard skills of it. So it was just a natural progression, kind of thing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
that's phenomenal. Yeah. Okay, so now that you have this this budding company, so what did you do before then? Before that, you're coming up with this. Yeah. How many employees? You're the CEO, right?
Yeah, it's just 6 of us right now.
Six of you. Okay, so and how long has this been in inception for?
So, so I started 6'5", which is the marketing consultancy. I started that in 2015. Okay. Really, I would say I probably built my first website for someone in 2014. Okay. And then officially incorporated it. So if anyone's starting a company, especially if you're a little bit younger, there's a program called Summer Company, so at the Small Business Center. So if you're going back to school in the next year, you can apply, and they'll give you a $3,000 grant to start a company.
That's for the government,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So you can work on your business for the summer. I was balling out. I was so excited. $1,500. I was swimming, and so that's when I actually started it. And I think they gave me an opportunity. They saw what I was doing. I wrote up 40-page business plan and just started just trying to figure it out. So 2015 was when I officially started the company.
You're moving really fast.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like it, sometimes it doesn't. And then what basically happen is you start to work with clients, and then they start to, it's the same thing you probably experience with your clients. There's patterns, right? They just start to, my tooth hurts, and then you figure out before they even tell you all the details what it is. So you start to sort of build up this pattern recognition, and that's what I was doing. I was getting asked for all the same work over and over again until I was just like, okay, there must be a more streamlined way to actually do this. And then what I had the privilege to do was there's a program called Fanshawe Corporate Training at Fanshawe, and so it was basically teaching business owners how to market. And through a reference, and this is a big part, I guess one thing do you know Innovation Works downtown at London? So it's Pillar Nonprofits, a co-working space downtown dedicated like social enterprises and nonprofits and business, about 200 companies in there. Amazing space to grow a business and just build connections with the community. So I got a reference through Fanshawe to start leading Fanshawe Corporate Training. And so I set up, I was the third person they hired there, and what it was 25 businesses in a room, try to teach them digital marketing. And so when you did that, that's when the pattern recognition really stuck out to me, because I'd asked them at the start of the business, or at the start of the workshop, like, what are your challenges? And they would be like, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough cash, we don't know how to do it, and if we do it, we don't know how to measure the results. Those are like literally exact same pattern every single time, and then it was just a capacity issue. I couldn't help all you people, because I'm going to ask you to charge too much. You're not going to want to pay it. I'm not going to give you that value back. So how can I do this through software, basically? And so that's what led me to where I am today. Yeah.
Genius.
No. Natural progression.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also have on your LinkedIn profile, you have psychedelic.
Yes.
What's the word?
Advocate.
I'll
take it. Yeah.
Psychedelic advocate. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. So I know Tim Ferriss is into that. I know Steve Jobs is into that.
Yes.
So when did you get into it, and how are you measuring up to doing it on a consistent basis, and what is the result that you're getting because of it?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I like that you ask multiple questions. It's good stuff. So I'll start with, when it was actually, my first experience with that was when I was going through that period after hockey. And it was that identity crisis that I was facing. And I was, alcohol, just partying all night. And I was like, there must be some other way. I don't know if this is the exact thought process, but I was just looking for something else. I still wanted sort of a substance, and so I had my first experience with psilocybin mushrooms. Now, what is really dangerous about that is we get sort of completely miseducated to that when we're younger. So, I heard in high school, I never did any of that. I didn't really like any drugs in high school in the same way that, I have an understanding of them now, but it was just like magic mushrooms, for example, make your brain bleed. That was just what I heard. I was like, wow, this sounds horrible. Like, who wants their brain to bleed? And so really, as I went, started to try to process my own identity, I started using psilocybin, and it was great, except that I was using them recklessly. I just didn't have an understanding. I didn't understand how powerful they were. And anyone who has had an experience knows how powerful they can be, emotionally, physically, and then obviously mentally as well too. And then I went through a really stressful time through that transition through hockey, and then when I was just turning 21 felt like a really weird age to me. I just felt like a lot of things were just like over. I don't know why. Just like, you got it, you got your ID, I don't know, everything just felt like it was like, all right, I'm old now. And it's like anyone who's older than me, like, it's ridiculous. That's such a stupid thing. It's such a short-sighted thing. But I turned 21, I was going through a difficult time then. And then about 7 days later, I think my dad he had a heart attack. And so he's fine, he lived. Okay. But he died for a bit. They actually resuscitated him in the hospital lobby, which was just a really intense experience. Right. And I had a really difficult relationship with my father, and so it started to make me, it just sent me in this like existential loop of just like, wow, like my dad worked in a factory. He'd worked at Shulman's in St. Thomas. It had got closed down, and then he'd been working at CAMI, still works at CAMI right now, 40 hours a week. nighttime, and he'd really struggled with that. And so I just really started to get in this mindset of like, wow, what's going on in the world right now? Why are we going this way? And so I started to use psychedelics, but it really, in my state of stress and my lack of understanding, it basically, triggered a psychotic episode. So a really dangerous time in my life, which led me to be an inpatient in the hospital and a really dark time. And so I really laid off psychedelics for a long time. I was completely terrified of them. But as I started to do more research and just looking into, first of all, what happened to me? Why did I have all these powerful moments, some which were positive, some which were negative? I started to just try to understand more about it. In the last several years, the science behind it and the research that's going on to it, and some of the results to me are just they're just like definitive. Okay. There's still a lot more work to do, but for example, like I was down. This is another story, but I was down. So I went to Burning Man this year, which was awesome.
Nice.
But one of the people there was saying that basically they're using MDMA to treat soldiers who come back from Afghanistan and Iraq down in the United States right now.
Treat them for what?
For PTSD, yeah. Which 20 veterans are killing themselves a day right now in the US. And so there was a psychotherapist there who said basically that what she could do in the past in like 3 to 4 years to rehabilitate a war veteran, she could now do in like 3 to 4 hour sessions with MDMA. And it's like to hear that from like a respected like scientist and psychotherapist is really profound. So it just all this evidence has started to build up. Psilocybin sessions completely dropping someone's, 50% success rate if you take psilocybin through therapy, and this isn't a therapeutic context, 50% of people will have never smoked a cigarette a year later. It's like crazy results that are actually going. So I just started to, finally this evidence started to build up. People started to talk about it a little bit more, and to me it had been such a mindset changer for mindfulness and just an understanding of who I was and self-awareness. And so I just started to look more into it and then experiment and just try to meet more people in the space. And so that's why I really have become, I would consider a psychedelics advocate. Yeah. It's a dangerous thing. It scares me sometimes, right? We're still really early in this space, in the understanding of it. But
Tim Ferriss is a huge advocate.
Huge advocate. And we've seen the success of a guy like that, right? Yeah. And I think it's because he's instilled a state of mindfulness. I don't think you need psychedelics to get to places like mindful states, but I think a lot of people use it as a path to get there, to understand what I was always trying to figure out, like what enlightenment was, or what peace in the mind was. And for me, psychedelics showed me a little bit more of what that was. And now I can replicate that through exercise, steam room, yoga, all these other ways to actually do that. But it showed me this peace that I could actually get to, which was really powerful.
That's awesome. Because is it because you recognize the sensation and you're like, okay, I recognize the sensation with psychedelics, now I don't have it, but I can see myself going that same path.
You can get back there, and it's a beautiful. There's so many ways, like holotropic breathing, holotropic breathing, or Wim Hof. Do you know Wim Hof at all? Wim Hof is so he's this guy who you do four breaths, 4 seconds breath in and then 8 seconds out. I should be getting that right. And you'll do maybe 120 sets of that. And by the end of it, you're in a completely psychedelic state. So they'll do it with like music, and then a lot of times in groups, and then they'll do like it's a holotropic breathing session. And by the end of it, you could not tell if you had done a psychedelic or if you. So we have these states inside.
Really?
You have these states inside of us.
So you breathe in 4 times and breathe out 8 times?
You breathe in 4 seconds and you breathe out 8 seconds. But then you would do like 120 sets of that. It's difficult. But by the time you're there, you are in a completely different mind state. And it's really, really powerful stuff.
And how do you keep track of that?
A lot of times it'll be guide. It's like group, right? So she's saying you've got, 10, 20, right? So very, very intense experience. But I just think there's a lot of ways to actually get to those places. And I think most people try to talk about, trying to get to happiness. And I don't think happiness is a plateau you can get to. But I think there's a level of mindfulness that people are trying to strive to get. And I think it can be, sort of catalyzed by something like that as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It is intense. Yeah, if you are interested in it, there's a really cool diagram. It shows someone's brain when they're not on this is psilocybin specifically, so magic mushrooms. It shows what your brain looks like when you're on psilocybin and when you're not. Yeah. And it shows the connections that are actually happening. So what it's actually doing is it's turning off your default mode network, which is a lot of times where your like ego arises and a lot of this like jitteriness and anxiety comes from, and it shuts all that down, but then it starts to build connections throughout your brains, like abstract connections that weren't necessarily there. So the pattern recognition piece is really powerful, but it can also be dangerous, and that's where a lot of people people get into this dangerous piece. Oh, I'm seeing the numbers all the time. I'm seeing, all these things, so people can also start to identify patterns that aren't necessarily there. So it's a lot of power within them, but there's a lot of safety and precautions that need to be taken as well too. So I've been through the tough part of it. I don't want other people to go through it.
Okay, and so how do you measure the dosage? Like, how do you know how much you should be taking?
I think there's some really good guides online. Like if you're actually doing that, we talked about Tim Ferriss has like a literary prescription for like how he would recommend you dose, and so it was like once a quarter, 3.5 grams of dried mushrooms. So that is a pretty powerful dose. They would say like a heroic dose. And there's a famous person named Terence McKenna who called it a heroic dose. 5 grams or more in the dark with your eyes closed. So that's that's an experience. And then where generally people are talking are like more like microdosing levels. So like 0.0 to like 0.25 of a gram kind of thing.
And what would that do? Like what kind of experience?
It would be a cognitive boost.
So would you be sitting in front of a computer, you can't code or you can't come up with an idea, you're like, okay, let me just pop a pill?
There's a lot of people doing that. Yeah. No, seriously, a lot of people are doing that, and that's
and that actually like helps them.
Oh, for sure.
Helps them think faster. Helps them.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's like that's where.
Is it like Limitless, the movie?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I won't want to put that on that, but no, seriously, that's where I think a lot of people see the microdosing piece come in, because you can't like a lot of psychedelics are like addictive in a way because they are such powerful experiences. Like most people won't want to take like a heavy dose of psilocybin and then want to do it again the next day. You're just like, no, kind of thing. Yeah. But a smaller dose, I think a lot of people are using it for like mental clarity. You feel your body a bit more, and then at higher doses, you get your sense of time changes a lot. So there's I don't know if you get it as in your work, but like when you're in a long surgery, you sort of get in like a flow state. That's generally what it feels like. It's induced. It can be induced very quickly. So a lot of people are doing yoga and taking small doses of psilocybin before to get them into that flow state quicker. And I think that's really what most people are trying to get into life. It's like there's a joy of the flow state, and
so it's kind of like getting in the zone.
It's getting in the zone.
Got you.
That's a low dose, I would say.
Wow.
Higher dose, you're in for a ride.
All right, Tyler. So last thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Now you're coming up with this amazing company, and I can definitely see you taking off real fast. Where do you see yourself in the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, and you said you're gonna check back on me in a couple of years.
I will.
Too.
I definitely will.
Man, that's predictions are hard. I really struggle to make predictions in the future because I just don't know where this world is going to play out.
Okay.
Like I think so.
But
many
where
things
do you want to be?
Where do I want to be?
Yeah.
I would like to be, one of my big goals is that I want to have like 5 years of runway for cash.
Okay.
So I can really sort of experiment and do the things that I want.
Okay.
So whether that means that I'm with my company now and we're a profitable company and I know that we've got contracts or customers that are going to be long into the future who trust and love us, or that's I've exited on a company and I'm sitting on a good amount of money so I can then reinvest, spend some more time and figure out what the next chapter is in my life. I think, I'm really care about the mental health side. I really do care about the psychedelic space, and I'm working with, an organization, MAPS Canada. MAPS United States is doing a lot of great things to try to do a lot of things around like decriminalization and really bringing, sort of non-pharmaceutical sort of treatment to the world. So I think I want to spend some time there, and generally just trying to be a better person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope so. That's
awesome.
Working on that.
Well, I can't wait to see what your journey is going to unfold.
Thank you.
Honestly, you're a very bright person.
Oh,
clearly, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's super awesome. You're a breadth of knowledge. Seriously, you have so much knowledge. It's been an honor for you to actually be on the show. Thank you so much.
One time I just feel like you've come in and you've done a great job asking questions, but one time I want to ask you some questions as well too. I know we got time. We'll cut it here now, but I just love to know more about what you're doing, and just I think it's really powerful of you dedicating all this energy into this business here, the dentistry piece, but also trying to go above and beyond that.
Right.
It's really admirable. So I congratulate on that. I know it's hard when you're putting all that work in and then spending time after hours, but it's making a difference for some people. So keep doing
I believe so.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Discover with Sbenati. This has been a very enlightening episode. I'm sure you guys felt it the same way. Tune in to the next time. We'll see you soon.